this is, you know, as Dylan says, I've been a veteran of the permaculture struggle since 1981. And it has been a struggle in North America because this was very infertile soil because we were too wealthy. And that shifted, and the interest in permaculture has bloomed as the world looks more grim all the time. The better permaculture looks as a good solution to that. One of the things I've always loved about permaculture is basically that permaculture, from my perspective, is common sense solutions applied on a whole system scale. And so that's what's really happening, is we need to do that on a cultural level. And we have to take this beyond just food or energy or those kind of things to really look at this larger and broader kind of community context. That said, food is probably the best organizing principle we've got because you can get agreement across ideologies and political belief systems and all those kind of things like that. So we need to use food as a uniting factor in this work that we're doing as cultural change agents. If you look on a historical level, if you look at civilizations and human society's evolutions, a couple of things stood out to me along those kind of lines is the gardens trump agriculture every time, that you can produce more food for less energy, more locally, and more nutrition with more diversity in a garden than any agricultural system out there.
But I want to talk about this, where we are here at the Haywood Street congregation, which is a microcosm of the world in so many ways, even though it seems like an unusual church with an unusual mission of basically feeding people who are hungry. So every Wednesday, between 250 and 500 people are fed right here, and in the adjacent room, they're fed lunch. And there's not a requirement that they go to a service, but there's also an extraordinary service available upstairs after that. The emphasis here is on meeting people's needs. And one of those needs is that a lot of folks who are homeless or low income don't have access to healthy food, or they can't afford, certainly, to buy organic food. So when we go outside, or you've probably been out there already, I want you to know, last summer, 700 pounds of organic produce came out of that little garden right there.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about dynamic governance, and I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing people who have used it, experienced it in the Asheville Buncombe Food Policy Council, in Transition Asheville, in the Asheville Movement Collective, in the East-West Asheville Neighborhood Association, and Rosetta from Rosetta's Kitchen. They're implementing dynamic governance throughout their whole business. So it's something that I have been fortunate, and it hasn't even been a year yet, that I've been fortunate enough to be able to play a part in bringing this methodology out to our community and out to the broader world. And when you think about governance, you know, it's kind of one of those subjects people don't really like to think about very much. It's kind of like the idea of having meetings where you talk about how you should have meetings, and like those toast everybody, like please don't make us go through that. But the truth is that how we make decisions together and how we organize our work and how we create roles and know who does what and who's accountable for what and what's our relationship to each other and who do you go to and who makes which decision, the clarity around that actually makes for a much better experience for us working together.
We still have individuals, we still have a community that is definitely into finding a different way of living and being and just coming together in that way. And one of our things that we find in common with all of us is growing food. Since our community garden has been there have been other people in our community that has taken it upon themselves to start their own little gardens in their lawns. Before Hillcrest Unity Garden came about, nobody period on the hill was growing food until till the garden came, and then you have other individuals that are growing food, and mainly elderly, because they can't get down to the location of the garden. But we are looking to extend that to have as many people in our community growing food right in their front or little back plots, yards, I guess you could say.
Three Sisters. Now there's about 50 people who have gotten rid of their lawns in this neighborhood, and it's filled with food production. That's a culture shift. It happens when you have inspiring, solutions that people can see and replicate. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as going outside and doing exactly that. So that shifts culture. Gardens are a great model for shifting culture. It's about horticulture and how, in the same way that we cultivate plants, we can cultivate souls and spirits and personalities and communities of change.
One of the, in thinking about how we get to that change as quickly as possible, the food policy councils, through their efforts, wrote and helped to pass the City of Asheville Food Action Plan. This happened in January. The City of Asheville now has a food action plan for the first time in its history. And I want to read a couple of, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there's a couple of pieces I want you to hear, because I want you to hear the guiding language for your government in this city now. The City of Asheville believes that all citizens should have access to healthy, nutritious food, and that our community should be able to sustain its nutritional needs year-round with regionally grown, processed, and stored healthy food. The Asheville Buncombe Food Policy Council defines healthy food as grown locally through organic and permaculture principles from seeds, plants, and animals that are not genetically modified and in a manner that builds the fertility of the soil. That's the law of your city. And it means a lot. And if you see the city not following its own rules, you need to say, hey city, you just said this other thing.